people to Medicaid, which is not good for the people on it. It's not good for the doctors. More and more doctors are not taking Medicaid. It's just the reimbursement rate's just not, and it's not good for the people on it. It's just terrible. Yes,
You have a military background. What is your view on the administration's treatment of the military at this time?
Yeah, I've got some conversations in play right now with some guys that some of my classmates are full colonels now and things like that. So I'm trying to dig into the specifics of some of these allegations that are floating around that they're purging the generals that don't agree with them from a social standpoint. It looks like that's maybe what's happening, and it's tough on the military. You know, growing up in the military, there's a very and we should all be grateful for this. There's a very much civilian control of the military, and they try to somewhat stay out of politics. You know, they vote and everything, but that especially in the officer corps, that separation, so that they can say, look, we're in the military, civilian control, you guys tell us what to do. But there is a difference though when the administration begins to settle into the military and actually rearrange what's going on in there. They should look at it and say, these guys win our wars. End of story. And if anytime you start changing the situation for a soldier, anybody in uniform, you're basically playing with their life, is what's happening, because you got to degrade capabilities and all that, and then you're going to send them off to combat. Right? It's not fair. So I see it happening. We're digging into it more and more as we go along here. I don't have a specific thing that I'm prepared to say on a statement, but I'm with you. I hear what you're saying.
We have a grandson who is thinking military now, and the command just upsets me.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough environment right now. But that doesn't mean it can't change. And I do, on this front, I do think that we're setting up for wave election years. Because this whole concept of the past versus the future, we're all very involved, but I think the American people en masse are going to say, wow, my premium went up, my deductible's going up, I don't like what's going on, the world is not a safer place, America should be leading, all these different things, and this is not working for us. So we're actually just 2 elections away from turning this whole thing around. But now's our time to work. I've put my life on hold to do this. And so we've all got to say, this is our time. We've got to step up. We cannot look back and say, I should have done more. It's a huge reason why I'm doing this. I don't ever want to get to the end of my life and say I should have done it. So now's the time we got to say, we got to go after it. And all the examples are right there in front of us to talk about. It should be relatively easy for us, right? I mean, they're really screwing it up, right? So it's time for us to say, look at these are terrible results. We should do something different. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Follow on military questions. Seem like you're going to face a real dilemma. Your fiscal conservative approach, cutting back spending. How are you going to link that with good support of the military, which they're cutting the dickens out of that? I don't know enough about it to know that takes the heart and soul out of the military and their capabilities, but that issue, you're going to have a tough go there.
Well, I don't think so really, because you can have a modernized military, which we are doing that. It needs to continue down that path. I saw this firsthand when I was in, and it's only gotten worse. The staff, there's way too much staff right now in the military. Too many people not working in frontline jobs, and that needs to be rearranged over time. But from a budget standpoint, 2/3 of our spending goes to entitlements.
Yeah.
So we've got to reform that. I mean, everybody keeps pushing on discretionary and the military when the elephant in the room is the entitlement reform. I mean, we got to get, and that's why I say, my generation and younger, we've got to get to a place where we know where that's going to come down. Everything improves with a great economy.
Yeah.
Right? Everything is better with a great economy. You can cut taxes and still grow. You can have extra, the size of the pie, and I think you guys all know this instinctively, the size of the pie is what matters the most, because no matter what's going on with the economy, the government's only going to take in about 19% of the total GDP as revenue to the government. Okay? So that 19% is the slice of the pie. So if you raise taxes too high, if the rates get too high, the pie shrinks. you still get your 19%, but you just have a smaller pie. So you got to grow the economy, get the pie, but the 19% because becomes a bigger absolute number. Right? That's what we're looking for here. We're looking to grow the economy because everything improves when the economy's humming, and that's what we really want. Yeah.
So, we've had good economies in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We've had excellent economies in the past. And we've spent ourselves into a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
We got over $100 trillion in debt, counting our debt and our unfunded liabilities. And those unfunded liabilities are all owed to benefit programs. So, and no one's making any cuts. Even the Republican Party just gave in to a budget, which I'll give them it from a strategic position. It might have been a halfway decent move, but we gave up all of our sequester cuts. We're not saving any money.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do to help us get back on track towards trying to get a balanced budget somewhere in the future that doesn't affect 2 generations out? Because if we don't do it in 10, 15 years or 20 years, we really are truly putting this on the backs of our grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
And the pain in getting a budget that's balanced is going to be pretty significant
Mm-hmm.
to the general population.
Yeah. Well, the first place to start is Durbin's got to go, I got to come in. That's a huge change, okay? And then when I'm one of the guys that says, hey, look, we got to do this, we got entitlement reform, and I'm not a professional politician, I have no interest in becoming a professional politician. If I lose on my next election after I win, it's just the special interest got the best of me because I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. So when I go in there and start talking about entitlement reform, I need everybody that voted for me to back me up. I mean, that's just what it comes down to, you know, because somebody has to stand up and say, okay, the reality is it's enough. We can't keep going down this path we're going down. So, so like I said, entitlement reform is the biggest thing, you know, and you're right about the generational theft. You know, that's what we got to be talking about because that's what's happening right now. And if we don't make that, if we don't start turning that ship around right now, I don't know if it's even past the tipping point. I certainly hope it's not. But we've got to turn it back the other way. And I'm one of the guys that says, let's attack it. Let's do it. Durbin, nothing. Okay, he's gonna rail against anybody that says anything about it. And so, but that's not real. You know, it's just not reality. So I'm just gonna, you know, anybody that knows me knows I'm a principled guy. This is what I stand for. This is what I'm gonna do. Yes, ma'am.
How is it that it seems that Congress can just turn their eyes the other way when things go against the Constitution, our basic document?
Mm-hmm.
It almost seems to me as if our congressmen are afraid to stand up for what they know is there. I don't understand how things can go on
Yeah.
when it's a flagrant misuse of what's in there.
Yeah. Yeah. The erosion of the rule of law. You know, we start to turn into a third world country. It's how we look like from a governmental standpoint. That's, you know, you start getting into impeachment discussions and everything in that direction. I think the question becomes, how long are we going to allow, you know, in particular on Obamacare, the president to just walk into the press room and change the law? You know, we've got the House and the Senate and the White House press room. That's what George Will was saying the other day on a Sunday show. It's a new branch of our government, right, where you just walk in and make an arbitrary change. The price that they're going to pay is because of the level of uncertainty that already existed, in particular on Obamacare, and then to have the president arbitrarily add more uncertainty, it hurts the economy. And what he's doing is actually damaging himself throughout the election cycles. Because even though we get very upset, and as we should be, because we are rule of law people, we understand if you don't pay attention to the rule of law, it's all downhill from there. So we get all that. But the reality of this in the economy is that it keeps degrading everything. And then the people that don't necessarily pay attention to the rule of law conversation say, we got to do something different. And then we just have to stick to our core beliefs as Republicans and the people that we elect and say, we are going to stick to the rule of law. This is who we are. That's what it says right there. We may not agree with it at this time, but we can pass legislation to change it. We are not going to go and just ignore it. So And I don't know where it lands